Beep, beep. What is up, ninjas? My name is Sam World with Evolution of Sound. I've had the pleasure of helping a lot of amazing artists create music, and these are some of the ways that they've always started their songs. This list is going to contain some of the ones that I enjoy using in order to start my own music. Steal like an artist. Thanks to my YouTube channel, a lot of big artists have reached out to me to help them create some of the music that they want to make. But one of the things that they all have in common is that when they reach out and they ask what they want, they will always reference other artists. I've never had one come out and say, I want this sort of mystical, deep vibe with like this synth that does this and that. A lot of the times they will show me a couple of songs. Can you make something like this in the break? Can you make this sound for my drop? What this has taught me is that a lot of artists will utilize other artists' work to get inspired from. Here's a good example of this. If we listen to John Summit's new track called Revolution, the track utilizes a rolling bass line, so this might inspire you to make your own version of this. Just make sure not to copy the vocals and the timing of certain things like some producers have. Once you've been inspired from this track, move on to another one. For example, I don't know what track this is, but I really like that top melody and the rhythm it has, so I might decide, okay, rolling bass with that. And now I've made something completely new because these two ideas are in a different world. If you want to learn more about this sort of inspiration, I consider you to check out the book Steal Like an Artist, which makes great points that will help you utilize other people's tracks in different genres of music to create your own music. Starting with a chord progression is some of the most generic advice I can give to you, but it works. I'll add a little twist to it and say that you don't even need to know how to make your own chords because you can utilize MIDI packs. You can utilize other people's chord progressions. Like for instance, a website I really enjoy looking at is called hooktheory.com. Under the resource section, they do have a theory tab database. For instance, this is a classic dance track, and I can look at the chords that they used. This track has 2 chords, so for instance, I might decide to start with now from there, the bad thing to do is going to be to keep copying that chord. Now, no one has ownership on certain kinds of chords because chords just keep repeating in music constantly, and then the type of sounds that you use to bring together and the vibe is what gets copyrighted. But again, there's always exceptions, so don't steal the chord. Instead, get inspired off this. For example, from here, I at least have something to play with, so now I can start to say, okay, A to C, maybe I'll hit the F. Tasty. Now you may be going like, Sen, this sounds like a song that's already been made. Exactly. A lot of these chord progressions have already been used. What I do know is this is a great way to get inspired because again, no one is gonna just wake up one day and say, I have this idea with this melody and this and that. A lot of times inspiration will stem from listening to the soundtrack of a movie, and it's fine if you want to experiment with the chord progression of the movie soundtrack, but make sure to make it your own and add your own twist to it. The other way I love to start songs with chord progressions is if you're in Ableton, there's this neat hack. I'm going to use a great sound from my Explorations Volume 2 pack, which you can find at evilsounds.com. And I like to use the chord and the scale feature inside of Ableton in order to set up this cheat sheet. In the scale, we're just going to hit scale, and we're going to go minor right there and just drag and drop that thing down. Pick the key you want to be in. I'll choose A. Set up the standard triad for minor, which is a 3 and a 7, and literally just jam out. If I can do it like this, I'm sure you can do it with your fancy MIDI keyboard. Start with a vocal. I've been doing YouTube for about 10 years and I think I burnt out Splice because I made a lot of videos about how to start a song back then. And one of them was to find a vocal. This is still one of the best ways to start a song, and it's my favorite way of doing it. I used it for the track Can I Ask You, with the first one I released under the Sam World name so that you guys can see the kind of music I can make with the tips I teach you.
I love the way my body's moving to the beat. I love the way you're slowly getting close to me.
Sure, I'll get close to her. Once you have the vocal inside of Ableton, here are the pros of doing this. Number 1, the hardest thing about starting a song is that you have a blank slate, so now you have to pick the key, you have to pick the chord progression, you have to pick the kind of vibe you're going for, the theme, the genre. When you pick a vocal, you're pretty much limiting yourself into the world of whatever.
I love the way my body's moving to the beat. I love the way
so now there's only a specific vibe this vocal is going to work with. Now, of course, there's exceptions. You can make future bass out of this if you really tried. Down.
I love the way my body's moving to the beat. I love the way you're slowly getting close to me. I love the way my body's...
See, this doesn't work. I mean, it's in key, but it's a little too It's just two different worlds, like Romeo and Juliet. We need a stronger sound. No chord progression for this.
I love the way my body's moving to the beat.
Yes!
I love the way my body's moving to the beat. I love the way you're slowly getting close to me.
This is a sound from Exploration Volume 2 inspired by Artbat, the Flame track. So with this vibe already, I'm sure a lot of you guys are already like, can we collab then? I want to collab. Any producer out there that has done it for a while will have ideas for something like this. It all starts from grabbing an overused splice vocal. And there's nothing wrong with that. Set genres, set limitations, and execute. I'm a huge believer that we need to have genres and that we need to know what genre we're making. In fact, we need to know what subgenre we're making in the genre that we're in, because this is what's going to tell you what kind of kick you use, what kind of drums you use, what kind of sounds you use. Are you distorting enough? Is this too much reverb or is it not? I've taught a lot of people, and the advice that there's no such thing as genres and you should just express yourself freely is what hinders most of them, as they question every little thing. The worst kind of student I get is when they come in and I'm like, all right, sir, how can I help you today? Oh, I want to make music. I'm like, okay, dope. What kind of music? I don't know. How am I supposed to help that guy make music? So I will usually give him the talk that, hey, you know, you need to pick the genre, because from there, picking a kick becomes easier. Picking a snare becomes easier. Picking a bass becomes so much easier. Now, you can still be creative and unique when you pick a genre. It doesn't mean you're going to use what everyone else is using. The important thing is that you have to know the rules before you can break them in an educated, tasteful way. Now, what I like to tell my students is to pick a subgenre of the genres they're making. For example, here I have a tech house track which utilizes this sort of bass, and the moment you hear this bass, you're gonna know, oh, it's one of those kind of tracks. So when you have this kind of bass which is hitting on the boom boom, sort of like a reggaeton sort of pattern, there's rules that are set in the kind of kick you're gonna need, because obviously that bass is not going to be taking up the whole damn bar. So now you can get a more knockier, bigger kick. The type of drums you pick have to accentuate that beat. So now you're going to be looking at, okay, I need to have 909 claps and I need to have these sort of drums. And maybe I can layer this perk with the bass because this is this type of tech house track. From there, you can study the arrangements that people utilize in these tracks, and then you can start saying break, break, drop, drop. This is a very theoretical way of working, but to be honest, I think it's a great way to do it, because from there, once you got the theoretical stuff out of the way, you can start getting creative. Now, the last thing I'll add to this is that if you're making music and you don't really care about the views and you just want to make whatever the hell you want to make and you're okay with people not listening or understanding you, then that's totally fine. You know, what I'm trying to point here is that a lot of the people that I get, they're paying to learn from me, and I'm assuming that they want to make music that people will mess with so that they can eventually make money from the craft that they enjoy. Start with someone else's idea. Now, when you buy sample packs, you're pretty much buying the taste of the sound designers or whatever, the group of guys that made it. And one of those things is synth loops, bass loops that they have. Starting with them is super dope in my opinion, because again, if you're not the type of producer that can come up with an idea while you're taking a dookie, then this is super crucial for starting a song. Now, I have this song which I made and released with the Box of Cats called The Philosophy, which is a very quirky. However, the idea of this track started with hip-hop chord synth, which I really enjoyed, which sounded like this. So obviously this is a very mellow sound, and when you're putting this in this tech house track with like a very big bass, then it's not gonna work. So what I decided to do with it was apply a bit of Saturn to make it my own. And then obviously, instead of using it in a hip hop track, I used it in a weird tech house track. However, once I had this, I was like, you know what? I'm going to make one of those weird tech house tracks. And then I also made vocals for it. Very hard song to sell, bro. It's experimental. However, it started with a synth loop, and that allowed for ideas to start developing really quick. The moment I set the genre, had the synth loop idea from a sample pack, which is someone else's idea, I was able to go further and create something with it. Please listen to it and hit like on that song. I could use all the likes I can get. From there, the last advice I can give to you guys to start a song that has nothing to do with music production is to name the song from the start. For instance, if you name a song like, you know, MILF Cruncher 9000 or something, then maybe you're already starting to get ideas of what kind of instruments you want, like maybe like a porno guitar vibe with like some Calvin Harris drums and a good funky bass, and there you go. And then you name, because you named it that. You can name it something like Put Your Hands Up, or you know, the philosophy, and then from there that could mean different things for you, but it starts to instill a bit of creativity, going like, well, the philosophy, maybe do melodic house with that and make a track where it's about the pondering our existence, and that's the philosophy of life. Whatever it is, these are the ways to start songs that I've seen people that I look up to utilize, and that I utilize myself as well. And if you want to support my sound design work, you can find it over at evilsounds.com. My sound banks are utilized by some of the top producers out right now. I've never sent these packs out to them as promos. They bought them themselves, and they have utilized them in how-to and breakdown videos, which has allowed me to do this for a living. So if you want to support, you can check those out. You can also check out my music over at SamWorld on Spotify. I've started releasing a couple of tracks just so you guys can see the knowledge that I give to you can lead to some decent sounding tracks as well. With that being said, you guys have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace out and happy producing.